This might be the pettiest thing I have ever heard. So I made sure it cost him. My neighbor had a habit of parking his large truck halfway across my driveway whenever his driveway was full. I asked him nicely 3 times over 6 months. He would move it and then do it again within days. I missed a doctor appointment because I could not get my car out. I was done being polite. Send this to someone. Follow for more. Some people really have no shame. She hid the updated will. I had a copy. When our father passed, my sister, who had appointed herself in charge of everything, suddenly produced an old will that left almost everything to her and very little to me. She claimed it was Dad's final wishes and pressured me to sign away my rights quickly, before the grief even settled. What would you do? Follow for more. Wait until you hear how this one ends. I did not do anything. He did everything. My manager disliked me for reasons I never fully understood. He began documenting what he called performance issues. Minor things, inconsistently applied. He would note when I was 5 minutes late, but not when others were 30 minutes late. He wrote up instances of me not completing tasks that I had completed and had email evidence of completing. Make of that what you will. What would you do? Follow for more. Wait until you hear how this one ends. He ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, then asked to split it evenly. First date. He ordered the $35 steak and a $15 cocktail while I got a salad and water. When the bill came, he said, let's just split it evenly. Easier that way. I said sure, pulled out my card for exactly what I ordered, and told the waiter separate checks please. He looked stunned. He texted the next day saying I embarrassed him. I did not respond. Tag someone. Follow for daily stories. I read this 3 times before I believed it. I found out later it was because I refused to train my own replacement for free. I gave standard 2 weeks notice and agreed to help transition my role, nothing unreasonable. My manager then asked me to train my replacement during unpaid personal time outside my normal hours, which I declined, since I was already working my full notice period during business hours. The next morning my badge no longer worked and security escorted me out with my personal belongings in a box, a full week before my notice was even up. I later learned this was retaliation for refusing the unpaid request. I filed a complaint over unpaid wages for my remaining scheduled days, since they had effectively terminated me early without notice. I got paid out the full 2 weeks anyway, for doing nothing, which honestly was a better outcome than training anyone for free. Honestly, I don't blame them one bit. Rewatch the first 3 seconds. You'll catch it. Tell me this person is not the worst. I had asked for extra hours for months and got told there was no budget. For months, I asked my manager if I could pick up extra overtime shifts, since I genuinely wanted the hours, and was told repeatedly there was no budget for it. 2 weeks later, a rush order came in, and suddenly overtime became mandatory for the entire team. No opt-out, no extra pay negotiation, just an email saying everyone was expected to stay late for the next 2 weeks. I brought up my earlier requests being denied for budget reasons in writing and asked how mandatory overtime for the whole team was suddenly affordable. HR ended up reviewing the scheduling practices. I got back pay for that stretch at a proper overtime rate, and scheduling has been noticeably more transparent since. Watch the first line again. It explains everything. Wait until you hear how this one ends. She knew the whole time and said nothing. 7 years ago, my husband kissed someone at a party while we were dating. I did not know. My best friend did. She was there. She told me after I called her to tell her that my husband and I were expecting our first child. Still can't get over how this played out. Rewatch the first 3 seconds. You'll catch it. This might be the pettiest thing I have ever heard. 5 people promised to help, then all had the same excuse within an hour. 5 friends promised to help me move, and I rented the truck for the whole day based on that. That morning, one by one, they all texted the same excuse, almost word for word, about feeling sick. I moved everything myself over 12 hours. Later I found out they had all gone to a lake trip together that day and just did not want to tell me. I was not invited to the next group hangout either. I did not ask why. Rewatch the first 3 seconds. You'll catch it. Some people really have no shame. So I had his car towed at 3 a.m. For a full year, my neighbor parked his giant truck in my assigned spot. I asked nicely. I left notes. I even offered to trade. He just laughed and said good luck proving it was mine. The spot had my apartment number painted on it, but management was too lazy to do anything. Send this to someone. Follow for more. This one still doesn't sit right with me. She said my perfume was making her sick, but she were the same one. A coworker filed 3 complaints saying my perfume triggered her allergies, and HR was seconds from writing me up. I stopped wearing it entirely, and she still complained. So I checked the bathroom trash. Same brand, same bottle, in her bag. I brought it straight to HR with a photo. Turns out she wanted my desk by the window and thought this was the easiest way to get it. She got the write-up instead. What would you do? Follow for more. I read this 3 times before I believed it. The dress code never said anything about matching. My manager got annoyed that I always wore the same 3 shirts and told me to follow the exact dress code from now on, word for word. The dress code technically allowed costumes on Casual Friday. I showed up as a full pirate. He never specified anything again. Send this to someone. Follow for more. This one still doesn't sit right with me. I found the tiny red light blinking through my curtains at 2 a.m. I noticed a small red light blinking outside my window one night and realized it was a camera mounted on my neighbor's fence, angled directly at my bedroom. When I confronted him, he said it was for his own security and I was being paranoid. I called the police anyway. Turns out the angle was illegal under our state's peeping laws. He was fined and forced to remove it. He still glares at me every morning. I've read this 3 times and it still gets me. Send this to someone. Follow for more. Some people really have no shame. She billed me for deep cleaning a room she never entered. My cleaning service billed me for a deep clean of my home office, listed separately with an extra charge. I had locked that room that day because I was on a work call and forgot to mention it. The dust on the desk had not moved an inch. I called to dispute the charge, and she insisted she had cleaned it thoroughly. I sent a photo of the locked door timestamp. She refunded it within the hour. Tag someone. Follow for daily stories. Tell me this person is not the worst. Auditors found the pattern went back 3 years before I was even hired. An internal audit flagged unusual expense report patterns on our team, and my boss immediately pointed at me in the meeting, suggesting I had been padding client dinner receipts. I had exactly 4 expense reports on file, all small, all with itemized receipts attached. The auditors kept digging and found the actual pattern went back 3 full years, well before I was even hired at the company, tied consistently to his own approval chain and personal card usage. He was let go within the month. I was cleared entirely and actually got a formal apology from leadership, which I did not expect, but definitely appreciated. That's the part that stuck with me. What would you do? Follow for more. Wait until you hear how this one ends. There was always a kids' table, and somehow I was always at it. For 3 years straight, my mother-in-law seated me at the kids' table during every holiday dinner, despite being 32 years old and married to her son. This year I simply picked up my plate and sat at the main table anyway before anyone could stop me. She stared the entire meal, but said nothing in front of everyone. My husband finally noticed the pattern for the first time and had a very quiet conversation with her afterward. Honestly, I don't blame them one bit. Watch the first line again. It explains everything. Some people really have no shame. I found out only because the new company mentioned it directly during my interview. When I left my last job, my boss told me directly he would be happy to be a reference and speak highly of my work. Months later, during an interview for a great new role, the hiring manager mentioned offhand that my previous employer's reference had been surprisingly lukewarm, almost concerning. I asked what exactly was said, and it became clear he had quietly undercut me, probably because I left for a competitor. I used a different reference for my next few applications and got the job at the following company instead. I also mentioned this pattern anonymously in an exit survey years later, just so it was documented somewhere for future employees. Make of that what you will. Send this to someone. Follow for more. I cannot believe this actually happened. He planned this for weeks. Our job offered a significant bonus for covering holiday shifts. I had signed up for 1 month in advance. 3 days before, my coworker called in sick and management asked me to cover his regular shift too, which meant I would miss my holiday shift and lose the bonus. Something felt wrong. He had done this before to other people. What would you do? Follow for more. This might be the pettiest thing I have ever heard. They said nothing would come of it. They were wrong. I worked in a company that was systematically misclassifying employees as contractors to avoid paying benefits, overtime, and employment taxes. I raised it internally twice. Both times I was told it was a standard industry practice and to let it go. Send this to someone. Follow for more. This one still doesn't sit right with me. He laughed when I said I would take him to court. I hired a contractor to renovate my bathroom for $8,000. He took a $4,000 deposit, did 11 days of work that left my bathroom unusable, and stopped returning my calls. That's the part that stuck with me. Tag someone. Follow for daily stories. Buckle up, because this gets so much worse. I still showed up an hour early anyway, just out of habit. I had spent 3 weeks preparing a presentation for senior leadership, and the morning of, my team lead sent me a calendar update moving the meeting an hour later than it actually was. Lucky for me, I always double-check meeting times the night before out of habit from getting burned once years ago. I showed up at the original correct time, presentation ready, while she was clearly expecting me to walk in late and humiliated in front of the executives. The presentation went great. Leadership specifically asked why she had sent out a meeting time change that did not match the calendar invite everyone else received. She struggled to answer that one. Make of that what you will. Tag someone. Follow for daily stories.